2025 in-person and online service. So welcome this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in our community. We have a couple announcements. We will be having joys and concerns after Time for All Ages. There's little slips of paper over there if you have a joy or concern you wish to share. A big thank you to the welcomers. Those are the greeters and coffee hour volunteers who provided us with delicious supper on Friday. They even fed some unexpected guests. If you really want to thank them for all their hard work, sign up to be a greeter or help with coffee hour if your help is needed. The coffee hour sign-up sheet is somewhere over there as well, in the little table next to the entrance. The Brunch Book Club will be February 19th at 2 p.m. and they're reading The Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World by Robin William Kilmer. Reverend Kevin can answer questions about that. Next Sunday is the Shared Mirror Potluck, so there'll be a potluck after the service next Sunday, the second Sunday. Women's group will be at Molly's house on Friday the 17th at 5:30 p.m. Ask Molly if you have questions.
Friday the 7th?
Yes. Yes, Friday the 7th.
Isn't it the 7th? Yes. This next Friday.
Yeah, this coming Friday, the next Friday.
No, it's always the first Friday of every month.
Men's group will not be on the second Friday of the month because that's Valentine's Day. We'll probably move it to a different day. Talk to me if you have comments. It'll probably be Saturday the 15th.
You can have a bromance.
Let's see. I think that's all our announcements. So now let's turn and greet our neighbor in community greeting.
Hello, Ron. Hello, Ron.
As I ring the peace bell 3 times, take deep breaths and relax so we can move into worship. For this moment in time, let go of your anxieties, fears, and worries. Be in this moment. We will now read our church covenant. It is printed in the order of service, so feel free to read along with us. Love
is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
We'll now be lighting our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our call to worship this morning is a Celtic prayer called Kindle the Fire. This morning, as I kindle the flame upon my hearth, I pray that the flame of Bridget may burn in my soul and the souls of all I meet today. I pray that no envy or malice, no hatred or fear may smother the flame. I pray that indifference and apathy, contempt and pride may not pour like cold water on the flame. Instead, may the spark of Bridget light the love in my soul, that it may burn brightly through the day. And may I warm those that are lonely, whose hearts are cold and lifeless, so that all may know the comfort of Bridget's love. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today's Time for All Ages is one of the many stories of Bridget, the Celtic goddess of spring, and this is from a web zone called Kid Zone Geography Celtic Mythology. Now, in the ancient mystical lands where the Celts roamed, the world was once a place of eternal spring, a canvas painted with the soft hues of pink blossoms, the vibrant greens of new leaves, and the golden glow of endless sunshine. This realm of everlasting bloom was the masterpiece of Bridget, the youthful goddess of the dawn, whose touch awakened the flowers and whose laughter rippled through the babbling brooks. Bridget's hair shimmered like strands of sunlight, and her robes flowed in shades of emerald and gold, dancing with the breeze. Wherever she stepped, the grass sprang up, lush and soft. Daisies and buttercups unfurled their petals in greeting, and the air was filled with the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers. But beyond the warmth and light of Bridget's domain lay the shadowy realms of Cailleach, the ancient god of winter and darkness. Cailleach's world was a stark contrast, a palette of silvers and blues, where the earth was wrapped in a blanket of snow, and the trees stood bare with their branches like dark silhouettes against the icy sky. His eyes sparkled with the cold fire of frozen stars, and his cloak was the color of storm clouds, heavy with the promise of more snow. Envious of Bridget's vibrant realm, Cailleach sought to cast the world into a perpetual chill, where the colors of life would be muted by frost, and the warmth of the sun would be but a distant memory. With a wave of his frost-laden staff, he captured the sun, allowing only a feeble light to filter through his icy grip, plunging Bridget's beautiful world into the monochrome of winter. The once verdant lands fell silent under a shroud of snow, the colors of spring buried under a blanket of white. The people and animals shivered in the cold, longing for the return of the sun's warmth and Bridget's nurturing touch. Seeing the despair that had fallen on the land, Bridget resolved to confront Cailleach and reclaim the warmth and color of the world. She approached the boundary of their realms, where the last tints of green grass met the encroaching frost. "Release the sun, Cailleach," Bridget called out, her voice clear and unwavering like the first bird song at dawn. "Let the world know warmth again." Cailleach, with his cloak swirling around him like a gathering storm, replied, "If you can bring a sign of life back to this frozen world, I will relent. But should you fail, the earth shall remain in winter's grasp." Bridget accepted the challenge, her heart steady and her resolve firm. She knelt on the frozen ground, her hands glowing with a gentle golden light. She whispered words of hope and renewal, her breath like a warm spring breeze. Slowly, beneath the blanket of snow, a single snowdrop began to stir. Its green shoot pushed through the icy crust, reaching towards Bridget's light. With a burst of courage, the snowdrop bloomed, its white petals unfolding like a flag of peace in the cold world, its green stem a splash of color against the white snow. Cailleach watched in silent awe as this tiny flower defied his icy reign. The snowdrop, with its delicate beauty and vibrant green, was a testament to the enduring strength of life and the promise of renewal. With a nod of his frost-crowned head, Cailleach acknowledged his defeat. From that day forward, the year was woven into a tapestry of seasons, each painted with its own palette of colors. Cailleach's reign was now confined to the winter months, where he painted the world in shades of silver and blue, the time of rest and reflection. But when his time waned, Bridget would return, her touch dissolving the snow and inviting the colors of spring to emerge once again. Spring would bloom in washes of soft pastels, the fresh greens of new leaves, and the warm yellows of daffodils. Summer would follow with its bold hues of clear skies and the vibrant hues of the flowers all in full bloom. Autumn would gently apply its brush, coloring the leaves in fiery shades of red, orange, and gold, and a final burst of warmth before the cycle began anew. And so, the cycle of the seasons came to be, a balance struck between the warmth of Bridget and the chill of Cailleach, between the vibrant hues of life and the serene stillness of winter. Each season brought its own beauty, painting the world in an ever-changing array of colors, a reminder of the harmony that exists between light and dark, warmth and cold, growth and rest. For thousands of years, one of the ways people have honored Bridget in Celtic countries like Ireland is by weaving Bridget's crosses out of rushes, which is a hollow-stemmed, grass-like flowering plant that is found along many rivers. This one This one, actually, was made in Ireland from rushes gathered along the banks of the River Shannon. There were many made in a variety of shapes, but the most common shape, like this one, is thought to originally represent the sun. After Christianity came to Ireland and the goddess Bridget became reimagined as the Catholic Saint Bridget, the cross shape became associated with the familiar Christian cross. Now, an Irish tradition is to hang Bridget's crosses in the rafters of the home or near doorways to protect against house fires. And we will now proceed to sharing the concerns and joys of the congregation.
This is a special time in our congregation where each of us has an opportunity to share major events in our lives, our joys, our concerns, and our sorrows, so we can all be uplifted by the UU community.
Could you check that out?
As I read the the joys and concerns that were given us, Minister will light a candle. From Courtney Higley, Joy. Don't worry, Harmony is doing well. She just wanted extra sleep. I'm excited to visit my rheumatologist after waiting for 2 months. From Victoria, Annie, my young dog, is recovering from her loss of Honey. We pull together in love. From Arthur Cool, a joy, so great to see so many young people on the Broadway Bridge to protest the ice and the other bad things happening. From Vic Allen, a joy. I've purchased a squirt bottle. New Pot and I are...
New cat.
New cat. I was trying to figure that out. New cat and I are renegotiating terms.
Who's winning?
She is.
A concern from Victoria. Too many crises to mention. How to hold on to hope. It's not easy.
And I just wanted to light a candle of concern and hope this morning to acknowledge all the craziness and chaos that's going on in Washington and all of our federal agencies, and just to remind ourselves not to give in to despair. And so I wanted to let us all take a moment of silence for just a minute and reflect on this and try to bolster our sense of hope for the future. And on the 23rd service, we have our forum service. It'll probably be a topic that's related to this about dealing with our anxieties and how we respond in these times. So let's take a moment of silence now, please. Thank you.
We light one more candle for all those sorrows, concerns, and joys we hold in our hearts and are not ready to share at this time. No, we lift up our love for you and we are all in this together.
Our reading this morning is from the Book of Creation, an introduction to Celtic spirituality by J. Philip Newell. Christianity first appeared among the Celts in the 2nd century, if not earlier. By this point in time, they were living on the edge of the habitable world, as Britain and Ireland were then regarded. At an earlier stage, from about the 5th century BC, the Celts had formed something of an empire that stretched across Europe into Asia Minor. The expansion of Roman domination, however, pushed the Celts further and further west until By the middle of the 1st century AD, the Roman army had occupied many of the Celtic kingdoms in Britain. It was during the Roman occupation that Christianity first came to the Celts, possibly through the ministrations of individual converts in the Roman army. It is not, however, until late in the 4th century that distinct characteristics of Celtic Christianity began to emerge. The first teacher of note in the Celtic tradition was a monk by the name of Pelagius, which in Welsh was rendered Morgan or Morian. For over 1,500 years, his name has been identified with the heresy Pelagianism, condemned for its supposed teaching that humanity is capable of saving itself without the aid of divine grace. He emphasized that what was deepest in us is the image of God. A long theological controversy between Pelagius and Augustine of Hippo resulted eventually in Pelagius' excommunication, not that it was always clear which way the judgment of Rome would fall. The church in the Roman world was still feeling its way toward its theological understanding of human nature. It had not yet defined the doctrine of original sin, whereby humanity is declared essentially sinful. That Pelagius, in the end, was banned from the Roman Empire and excommunicated by the Bishop of Rome should not prejudge us for the value of what this early Celtic teacher was saying. The impression we have been given is that he was simply a one-off heretic. The reality is that he was reflecting the spirituality of the young British church. Around the same time as Pelagius' excommunication, the Roman occupying army withdrew to the continent in an attempt to stem the flow of barbarian invasions into Central and Southern Europe. The Romans were never able to recover Britain. The result was nearly 200 years of significant separation between the Celtic mission of the church and the Roman mission. This was an important stage in the development of Celtic spirituality. For now, British Christianity was relatively free from Roman domination. An offering to support the mission of this church will now be given and gratefully received. Well, it may not feel like it this morning, though it is a bit warmer than it has been recently. But in the annual cycle of the seasons, today marks the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So even though we can see wintry weather here in the more northern latitudes of America as late as May, on paper at least, we are now halfway to spring. And in ancient times in Celtic lands, today was an important holiday known as Imbolc, a name which comes from an old Irish word meaning in the belly. It is a reference to the pregnancy of ewes around this time of year and the promise of new life within the earth. Imbolc is associated with milk for the same reason, since this is the season when livestock begin lactating, marking the onset of fertility and abundance. Imbolc is the first of 4 fire festivals in the Celtic calendar. True astronomical spring begins at the equinox in a few more weeks, but for the Celts, Imbolc was a time to look for the first signs of spring's rebirth among the plants and animals. When I lived in the South, I remember that you would often see jonquils and especially crocuses sprouting up around the beginning of February, depending on how harsh the winter was. It was also common to see the first buds on many flowering trees, especially the serviceberry, cherry, and dogwood trees. Here we have to wait a bit longer, but rest assured, spring will return. At some point in the ancient past, the Celtic goddess Brigid, also known as Bridget, Bri, and Brigantia, became associated with Imbolc. Her name is derived from a Proto-Celtic word meaning the exalted one. Some have suggested that her name has even more ancient roots in a Proto-Indo-European word that means to rise. And Brigid's mythical lineage may have begun as an Indo-European dawn deity associated with the rising sun. From medieval texts, it appears that among the Celts, she was revered as the goddess of wisdom, poetry, healing, protection, blacksmithing, and domesticated animals. She was also associated with fire and the hearth, and especially the sun. According to legend, she was born at sunrise and ascended into the sky along with the rising sun, with rays of fire and light emanating from her head. As an infant, she was fed milk from a mystical cow from the Celtic otherworld, so she is still associated with cattle and milk. Milk, cheese, and other dairy products are featured in many festive meals and rituals because of this association. The next incarnation that remains very important to Irish culture to this day began with the introduction of Christianity to Britain and Ireland, which came with the Roman conquest. Over time, the ancient pagan religion of the Celts was supplanted by Christianity, but as you heard in our reading, Christianity had barely gained a toehold in the region before the Roman legions were recalled to fight off invading Goths and other so-called barbarians threatening the Western Roman Empire. With the fall of Rome, Christian monks and clergy in the Celtic world were largely left to fend for themselves, literally and theologically, for a couple of centuries, resulting in the fascinating formation of a uniquely syncretic Celtic spirituality that blended pagan mythology and folklore with traditional Christian teachings. It is hard to overstate the evolution of Celtic Christianity away from what was considered Orthodox Roman Catholic doctrine and beliefs. And there have been frequent conflicts between the Irish Church and Rome ever since. 200 years of isolated religious innovation is significant for any culture. Just think of how much has changed in our own Unitarian Universalist faith over the last 200 years. Though in our case, it was not so much isolation, but the global spread of new philosophical and scientific ideas and our openness to change that propelled this transformation. It was during this early period of Celtic Christianity that the goddess Brigid became transformed into Saint Brigid, and she is still revered as one of the three important national saints of Ireland, the others being Patrick, of course, and Columba. Whether there ever was a real woman named Brigid who became the revered namesake is highly debatable and likely a fiction. The official Catholic Church position is that she was St. Brigid of Kildare, an Irish abbess who was born in 451 and died in 525 at the age of 74. There is almost no historical mention of her beyond the records of the abbeys and other institutions she established, but there are plenty of alleged miracle stories associated with her that clearly have roots in stories about the pagan goddess. Like you see in any pre-literate society, small changes and colorful exaggerations in oral traditions can quickly add up to stories that have no basis in fact. One of the most fascinating stories that really reveals the syncretic nature of Celtic spirituality is that she was born of mixed pagan and Christian parents. And when they first offered her food from a druid, she spat it up. and she would only consume milk from a cow milked by a Christian milkmaid. In some accounts, it was even a fairy cow. But whoever she may have been, Saint Bridget has become so revered over the centuries that she is sometimes called the Mary of the Gael. At Kildare in Ireland, there is even a sacred perpetual flame in devotion to Saint Bridget that is maintained by a group of women known as Saint Bridget's nuns, carrying on a tradition from pre-Christian times. St. Bridget's feast day is observed on February 1st, but it may have originally been closer to February 14th in the old Roman calendar. As Marty mentions, one of the traditions still practiced in Ireland is on her feast day is the weaving of Bridget's crosses from rushes. At first glance, there is an obvious association to the Christian cross, but if you look closer, you'll see that the arms are off-center and more of a pinwheel configuration. And sometimes these are made with only 3 arms, and they come in various forms that have been discovered over the centuries. Although they are interpreted by most Irish today as a Christian symbol, archaeologists suggest they may represent an ancient pagan sun symbol or fire wheel that would likely have been associated with the goddess Bridget. Hanging them in homes for protection against house fires also harkens back to more ancient folklore. Another traditional practice on Bridget's Day was to bake goods and put them out on the doorstep. They were called cakes for the Queen of Heaven. An offering and offerings were often eaten by hungry travelers in her name. Contemporary neo-pagans in Ireland and elsewhere have begun an effort to revive and reimagine Imbolc in recent decades. And beginning in 2023, in Ireland, St. Bridget's Day was established as a public holiday, the first honoring a woman, even though she is probably mythical. Other ancient peoples observed the cycle of the seasons and important solar holidays, of course, and some of the symbols of this midpoint holiday have even made it into modern culture. One of these in America is the celebration of Groundhog Day, which also happens to be today. And I did watch a YouTube clip this morning that Punxsutawney Phil did see his shadow, so 6 more weeks of winter. Depending on where you grew up, you may know these delightful critters by other names, such as woodchucks, land beavers, Canada marmots, or my favorite, whistle pigs, which is an old-time moniker popular in the southern Appalachians. Its scientific name is Marmota monax, meaning it is a member of the large ground squirrel family of rodents. In Idaho, they are only found in the northern panhandle, but they are common throughout Canada and the eastern United States. Around here, you may see their smaller cousins, the yellow-bellied marmot, Marmota flaviventris. I saw one up close on Firehole Canyon Drive on one of our trips to Yellowstone. Other than having tough hides that are reportedly especially good for making shoelaces, these furry little vegetarians are harmless and mostly useful as a prey animal for larger carnivores. Not many humans eat groundhogs these days, but according to some people, their meat is quite delicious if properly prepared. I'll have to take their word for it. Around this time of year, the male groundhogs come out of hibernation, crawl out of their burrows, and go looking for a mate. Their mating ritual sometimes includes a male doing a little dance in front of a female's burrow by stomping his front feet and whistling. And it can also involve a frenetic chase and a fight before the male is invited to sire a new generation. Looking for his shadow is probably the last thing on a newly emerged groundhog's mind. From what we can tell, a common belief about Imbolc was that a sunny day on the holiday was a sign of more cold weather ahead. Once the pagan Imbolc holiday had become the Christian holiday Candlemas around the 4th century, It quickly spread throughout Europe. And among the Germanic tribes, a tradition began that if a badger saw his shadow on Candlemas, meaning it was a sunny day, there would be more weeks of winter ahead. Groundhog Day in America began among German immigrants in Pennsylvania, who became, and because of a dearth of badgers living there, adopted the groundhog as their burrowing mammal of choice. The first official Groundhog Day was celebrated in 1887 in the town of Punxsutawney as a stunt by a local newspaperman. Meaning no disrespect for the groundhog, it is perhaps a shame that there were no badgers in Pennsylvania, given their reputation as ferocious little predators. It would be quite exciting to see the tuxedo-clad officials in Punxsutawney wrestle a badger out of the hole and hold him to their ear to hear his official weather prognostication. Since Idaho happens to be home to the largest badger population in the world, maybe we should revive the badger tradition. Name him Idaho Ike or something. Badgers and groundhogs may be late additions to the lineage of Imbolc, but the emphasis on the sun and the astronomical timing of the holiday have always been important. It is hard to say when the celebration of Imbolc began, since the ancient Celts left no written records, but it is believed to have been about 6,000 years ago when agriculture became more important among Neolithic peoples. The earliest recorded mentions of the holiday date to around the 9th century. Another meaning of the word Imbolc in Irish Gaelic was probably a metaphorical reference to being in the belly of Mother Earth. As the midpoint of winter, it is the time when Earth lays most fallow, when animals are hibernating underground, and when seeds are dormant in the belly of the earth, awaiting the spring warmth. It is a liminal time between the slumber of winter and the return of life. I think we could all benefit from reconnecting with Imbolc as a reminder to let ourselves lay fallow for a time, to rest, and to recharge both physically and spiritually. As a Unitarian Universalist who understands that all religions emerged from human creativity and our personal experiences of the holy, I really admire the openly syncretic approach of Celtic spirituality as a model for the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I also admire the way Celtic spirituality has made significant contributions to Christian ecological theology in recent years because of its earth-centeredness and pagan appreciation for the web of life. I have long thought that celebrating the natural solar holidays that mark the stations of the sun, if you will, throughout the year is a good fit for the broad theology of Unitarian Universalists. And I have seen more and more congregations begin to celebrate the solstices, even if they have no strong neo-pagan group among the members. A more syncretic approach to the winter solstice, Christmas holiday, and the spring equinox, Easter holiday are two good examples that you see in many of our churches. And to a lesser extent, the other solar holidays have begun to gain traction as well. And I suggest that we could benefit from developing a uniquely UU approach to all of the solar holidays that freely blends appropriate elements from many traditions along with the science. It'll take some trial and error and possibly another century or so, but I think it is almost inevitable. Our approach to religion means that we find spiritual inspiration from many sources, though some of us strongly identify with a particular tradition. Over time, though, we have already evolved quite a bit, and will continue to do so just like Celtic spirituality. 60 years ago, for example, almost nobody spoke of Unitarian Universalism as a separate religious tradition. Our religious movement was thought of as an association of congregations with divergent, though still largely liberal Protestant beliefs. Ideas and beliefs that have true value and meaning can evolve and remain relevant, though they may take on surprising new forms. Just ask the 6,000-year-old goddess who became a saint and now enjoys a public holiday. If you want a ritual to celebrate Imbolc or Bridget's Day, one neo-pagan website I ran across offered 5 suggestions. Light a candle at sunset and give thanks for the sun's gifts. Bake bread or cakes and give them as an offering to others. Do some spring cleaning, especially around your hearth if you have one. Write poetry to express your creativity. Or perform a ritual of self-purification with a candle or incense, reflecting on reducing your stress and anxiety about the uncertain journey ahead. All of these sound like good possibilities, and you certainly don't need to be a neo-pagan or worshiper of Bridget to participate, or to appreciate how taking time for a simple ritual could be beneficial. So, raise a glass of milk to the goddess, the saint, the sun, or even the groundhog, if you like, and celebrate Imbolc like people have for thousands of years. Or maybe look up a how-to YouTube video about weaving Bridget's crosses, a great project that can be done by families indoors. Today, at the midpoint of winter, you could look at this holiday as a glass half empty or a glass half full. And we can all use a little ritual or celebration to tip the balance. Even under the frozen ground of Idaho, new growth is beginning to stir to life. And in several more weeks, or perhaps months, the earth will flare forth again in verdant spring. So, happy Imbolc. I invite you now to rise again in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 57, All Beautiful March of Days. Our closing words are the poem Imbolc by an unknown author. This is the wolf month, savage, bitter. The icy wind brings worst of winter. February is harsh, cold, and drear. Also the dead month, the time of year. But new life springs even in the cold. Ravens build nests, larks singing bold. Lambs are born, new blades of grass, time of light and dark, of Candlemas. The Khalid, old woman of winter, finds her rule, even seeming colder. Reborn, a young maiden of spring, bride comes, birds begin to sing. Bride with a white wand brings breath into winter, awakens dead winter, opens eyes to tears, smile and laughter appears. The sun rekindles its fire, brighter. Spring, fragile hopes of the winter, of the warmer times. Green shoots on the bough, new seed with spade and plow. Plate St. Bridget's cross, gift food, lay on windowsill for plenitude. Paved place in stables, bless the beast. St. Bridget's Eve is time for a feast. Imbolc is here, the Celtic Sabbath, so light candles in every habitat. Celebrate the ever-dawning light. Days lengthen, all will be right.
We will now extinguish our chalice with the following words. If you wish, join me in reciting the reading. We
Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
welcome, and tea hour for those who don't drink coffee. And water. And water.